After GTA 6 leaked earlier this week, it was reported on and widely noted on social media that a subset of players began to criticize the game still in development, basically just saying that GTA 6 looks real bad. Well, now the game industry at large has united, firing back at one really bad take in particular. On September 19th, Twitter user @Design4Mind317 commented on the GTA 6 leaks with an overabundance of confidence, saying, "If you knew how game development goes, you'd know that visuals are one of the first things done. This game is 4 years into planning and development. What you see is almost exactly what you will get. The next year is mission coding and debugging, all back-end stuff. It does look." Now note that Grand Theft Auto 6 is still 2 to 3 years out from being released, if it isn't delayed at this point, and not to immediately dunk on this tweet, but they basically said here the exact opposite of the thing that is true. Usually a game's visual design and aesthetics aren't fully realized till the end of development for a number of reasons. You can watch any no-clip documentary or basically any video about game development in general to kind of learn about these things. But overall, the statement clearly hit a sore spot for developers who are usually criticized and under fire from a large portion of their own audience who generally don't understand or have a whole lot of education or knowledge about how games are actually made. Basically, developers get these types of comments all the time, but for some reason, this one in particular broke the camel's back. The take has become a viral copypasta, and as reported by Victoria Kennedy over at Eurogamer, game devs have been showing solidarity with Rockstar by sharing clips of their own unfinished games. Notably, Naughty Dog game director Kurt Marganow shared the jaw-dropping downhill chase scene from Uncharted 4, tweeting, "What art looks like for a video game in development." Paul Arith, the lead designer for Control, cheekily tweeted, "Since graphics are the first thing finished in a video game, and Control won multiple awards for excellence in graphics, here is footage from the beginning of development." Smiley face. The tweet also has a link to a longer YouTube video. In it, we see familiar protagonist Jesse Faden, or rather a stand-in model, throwing around geometric cubes that say, "Throw me on them," and traversing the game's iconic architecture, except it's missing pretty much everything aesthetically. Control is already pretty minimalist, but it's clear here there are no textures and the lighting pass is mostly just enough to be functional for playtesting. Similarly, Kevin Chateau, game director of the Plague Tale games, posted a comparison shot of an early pass for A Plague Tale Requiem versus what it will more likely resemble when it comes out in October. This one is interesting because it's a sequel, meaning the developers would have had more assets to pull from for early build testing, but obviously we still see the same approach implemented here: gray blocking, no finished textures, and flat lighting. The official Twitter account for a more recent game, Cult of the Lamb, jumped in, also showing off an in-development comparison, and while this one is maybe the most similar looking, you can still see a tremendous difference from the finished product. Games writer Keon Mayer contributed to the discourse, showing off a screenshot of a Thunderjaw from the first Horizon game mid-development. We can see a Killzone model with a gun being used as a stand-in for Aloy, and clearly the Thunderjaw isn't even close to what it looks like in the finished game. Keon added to his thread, "Also, yes, that is a gun. This was prototyped using Killzone assets because games don't look like the finished product until extremely late in development. It's 2022. How is this not obvious?" Keon also posted a comparison video for the first boss fight in God of War, which shows later parts of the battle where the surrounding environment isn't even blocked out yet. Another good example was shared by Twitter user Excel Hedge, who wrote, "Don't ever trigger game devs, especially when you know nothing of their work." Below is @Bungie's Destiny's early alpha build versus Destiny Rise of Iron. The difference is pretty clear, and it's easy to see just from the pattern here that alpha builds of games will look significantly different from their beta builds, not to mention a fully finished game. You would almost feel bad for the original poster who said that visuals in games are usually the first thing done. That is, if it wasn't for the fact that they were combatively trying to convince a number of people they were an authority on the subject to further validate their misplaced criticism of an unfinished game in development. Then your next thought might be that this was actually just maybe an elaborate troll. But if that was the case, they probably wouldn't have blocked their account. Let this be a cautionary tale for those looking to unfairly bash a game in development that leaked and absolutely was not ready to be shown to the general public. Admittedly, there is a weird element to the story of the snake eating its own tail. We're obviously seeing a lot more backlash to the criticism of GTA 6 than we are seeing of criticism to GTA 6 itself. Now, part of that could just be because of how a lot of social media works. I follow a lot of game developers on Twitter, so I'm gonna see a lot of game developer takes. And, you know, obviously platforms like Twitter have their own way of surfacing tweets to various different people based on your habits online. But as I mentioned before, what's happening here isn't just a response to small corners of the internet saying uneducated things about GTA 6, but a response to the way audiences treat game developers overall. Now, I don't want to celebrate the dogpiling aspect of this story. That can be a really lousy part of online culture, but in this case, it really is hard to be empathetic with this person who kind of had a bad take, they made a mistake online, but then aggressively continued to make that same mistake and try to spread that same take. Enough people got upset about it, you know, a take that's clearly untrue, right? In this case, objectively false, and enough people responded that it forced them to lock down their account. This is the internet. That sort of thing happens. However, one net positive, hopefully, that we can take away from all of this is that by game developers showing their clips of unfinished games, hopefully more people online will become more educated about how video games are actually made. All right, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below about how you're feeling about GTA 6 or unfinished games in general. And for more video game news and updates, be sure to stay tuned right here to Inside Gaming.